Okay, so I'm going to talk about my addiction. And basically, I I admit to having an addictive personality because as my father was addicted. He was an alcoholic and he was a chronic smoker, or, and led to that led to various ailments that he got later in his life, like diabetes and renal failure, or and and I got that same addictive personality from him. I haven't tried any hard drugs, but my main thing is that I have a shopping addiction. I buy things frivolously to try and fill voids that I have in my mind and my heart, for lack of a better term. And yeah, just talking about those voids, it's because I have of a lack of a social network, and it's because that it's also because that I grew up in a dysfunctional family where I can't rely on family to be the people that are there for me. And so, well, well because I can't turn to the things that are traditionally there for a lot of other people, well, I end up turning to objects. But the problem is that that those things don't provide me joy for long. Um, I get the anticipation of getting them for maybe about a week, and then maybe once I have them, I have experienced joy for maybe a couple of days at most. But then the joy wears off, and and then I have to just get more things and get more things, and the cycle repeats over and over again. And I mean, I have things that are still in boxes that I have never opened and never looked through, who that are piling up in my room, and it's kind of shameful to admit it, but I have no excuse to give. I know why I'm doing it, but the prospect of look trying to create that social network is daunting. I have a lot of fears that I've had growing up, and I still carry them, and it's hard to abandon them. And I've made a lot of progress, and I've started reaching out to people like Anthony on this channel and other people, and like my best friend in Chicago, but it hasn't come easy. I continue to be addicted to just getting these things and letting them just collect dust and pile up in my room. The thing with addiction is that it feels good. You want it before, and it feels good during, but after you just feel the shame, and then that shame just adds to whatever problems that someone is masking through their addiction, and so the cycle just continues over and over again. And I admit that's going on, and I can see that it's going on, but that cycle is just hard to break. And the thing with addictive personalities is that nobody ever really gets over the addiction. It's just have to take it one day at a time, and just sometimes there are good days, sometimes there are bad days. But one thing that is helpful for addiction that maybe I have not tried is just this doing your best to remove whatever you're addicted to from the situation. Like in the case of harder drugs, it's just like there are some former drug addicts that I've seen where they've just completely moved to a new city because they just had to who get the people they knew out of their lives. And for me, maybe that means just stopping actively looking for products that I can buy, because as just if I put myself through temptation enough, then I'm just going to succumb to the temptation, because willpower is not infinite. Willpower is a powerful thing, but it's also a finite thing where if you put yourself in temptation long enough, it will fail. Another way to help with addictive personalities is find out why that addiction is being fueled in the first place. Is for me, it's because I don't have the human connections. I don't have the connections that maybe one is supposed to have as a child and growing up, and I'm substituting those connections that I need with stuff, with crap, basically. But that's not to say that everyone is like that. I mean, everybody has. There's a lot of reasons for addiction, and such as trauma, a traumatic event happening, or it's just genetics and just the family upbringing and them being introduced to it by family or somebody they knew. I guess those are the two main things: just removing oneself from removing the object of the addiction from one's life, and then also trying to figure out how, be it on their own or most recommended through therapy or through rehab, trying to figure out why the addict got addicted in the first place. The social network helps. The social network helps with that too. And just depending on who you surround yourself with, it can be helpful or hurtful. I mean, that's mostly what I can say about my addiction. Just I have an addiction to buying things, buying crap that I don't need. Books, DVDs, and they're just piling up in my room, just collecting dust in boxes that I've never opened. It's not something that I've conquered yet, and maybe I'll never really conquer it. It's just not necessarily a matter of conquering. It's just a matter of managing it, so that I can get back to a healthy level of purchasing and disposing of things, instead of this unhealthy cycle where I just buy things for the sake of filling some hole that is ultimately not going to get filled by it, that I need something else to fill it. Difficult to admit to having that in my life, but it is a part of my life. The situation is different with somebody that's addicted. It on the one hand, you want to show them love, but on the other hand, you have to set that pretty strong boundaries as to what you will accept from them, what you will not accept from them. But an addict in your life can potentially do a lot of damage to you if you're not careful. So there does have to be an element of protecting yourself, even if you love them. The best thing you can do for them is love them, but be tough on them and have strong boundaries and enforce them, because otherwise they'll just walk all over you, because they're not necessarily because they're bad people, but they're just not themselves. It's just the addiction that's taking control over them. And I mean, sometimes if it gets to that point, sometimes you do have to cut them out of your lives, even if you love them, because just sometimes if they're just doing too much damage to you, if you can't stop them from doing damage to you while they're in your life, the only way out is to get them out of your life, and then just hope for the best. If you can't help them, you have to help yourself at some point. Somebody's got to survive. And if it's not them, it might as well be you, as hard as it is to say. And even though you're being just strong and firm like that doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means that you're not going to allow them to hurt you, or bring detriment to your life. It's painful going through the addiction. It's painful seeing others going through the addiction and seeing the consequences, the damage that it can do.